we're ready to go. Everybody? All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. This is the December 2nd public meeting of the City of Mount Pearl Council. Good to see that all seats are full. Everybody, as they say, saddled and spurred, or a nautical term, everyone's on deck. First thing, obviously, would be the agenda, which you have before you. I would entertain a motion to accept as presented. It is moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Are there any additions beyond this yellow sheet of paper that I see here in front of me? Are there any other additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll call it. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. First item, minutes and the action report of the public meeting of November the 18th. Entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Moved by Councillor Stoyle, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Are there any errors or omissions? Errors or omissions? Going once. There's none. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Business arising from the public council meeting of November 18th. Please refer to any business arising by the agenda number so affixed. Are we officious enough today for everybody, or what? Any business arising that's not referred to elsewhere on the agenda? David, go ahead. Councillor Aker. That was Trafalgar. That is being addressed. Yep. And has been addressed, actually, quite frankly. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
I think what happened.
Councillor Walsh.
I think what happened. There was some dumping there. I don't know if it was by accident, by design, or if it was moved. But I think the contractor moved in, cleaned up the site. There's no debris. We had our inspectors go over, check it out. Everything that was there has been removed. Because I think we were going to try to take some action if it hadn't been against the contractor. Everything is done, so we're, whatever action was proposed has been rescinded. That is correct. My impression is that this was a mistake, and I must say the contractor quickly corrected it. So any action that we had pending, we've chosen to withdraw. Councillor Aker, anything else?
I know we talked in committee of the whole on the issue maybe of a fine, but maybe we don't, because it was a mistake, perhaps a clumsy, if not an honest mistake. Are we going to send a letter of reprimand or something like that? Maybe there still should be some accountability for the contractor, because obviously we wouldn't want other contractors to see the same mistake and say, "Hey, how might get away with that?"
I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether that went to committee or whether committee discussed anything like that. Councillor Walsh.
I'm not sure if Councillor Aker was privy to an email that was sent to everybody today relating to that issue. But I think the idea was that we were not going to take any further action, and I assumed that staff had done an internal review of that, and it didn't seem that any action was merited.
Right. So that's why I guess there won't be a letter of reprimand, as you suggest.
The contractor actually acted.
I'm sorry, Mr. Collins.
The contractor actually acted within hours and cleaned it up very swiftly.
Yeah.
It seemed like a mistake.
Yeah, Councillor Stoyles.
Well, I know I brought up a committee of the whole after the last public meeting, and now that it's in public, I will certainly address it again. So he acted within an hour after he was told that it was done. So it still don't seem very good for somebody to come in and have a contract and doing work for the city and dumping. I just think it's awful that this has happened. Unfortunately, fortunately he got caught. But I still think. Well, the issue
is, was it dumped or was it left?
Well,
there's a difference between a deliberate dumping and an error having left waste behind that you intended to originally take. See, so you have to interpret that. And within an hour of being notified that this was there, he set about correcting it and corrected it completely, as is evidenced with photographs. So I'm not sure that we can make any accusations beyond that, quite frankly.
Can't make it any better, can we?
And we can't make it any better, I guess.
The goal was to get it cleaned up, and it's been cleaned up.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think if we had
the question that Councillor Aker proposes, and I think Councillor Stoyle supports, is should we be taking a further action that leads to some deterrence for others down the road? I'm not sure this is the example I would use to do it with, but I recognize the validity of the argument you're making.
Agreed.
That sometimes you do make an example so that others who are working for the city or working in the city won't do the same thing. But this appears to be, by the reaction from the contractor involved, an honest mistake corrected quickly. And I think that's where the committee went with this. Okay? Any other comment or any other issue? Any other business arising? Any other business arising? No other business arising. We are going to move on then on the agenda. We have no proclamations or presentations today, Council, nor do we have public correspondence to table, which means we're going to move right along to our committee reports. First would be Community Services. Deputy Mayor Locke, the floor is yours.
Out with the old and in with the new, Your Worship. Dealing with our new swimming pool and the old swimming pool.
So are you going to do a whole lot of bragging over this one sentence?
Absolutely.
Go for it.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
Just let our residents know that the old pool, the Park Avenue pool, is now closed to the public. And for any aquatic programs, any swimming lessons, any other programming, residents can contact the Summit Center at 748-1002.
Has the plug been pulled?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's closed up for the winter.
Mothballed. The old pool is mothballed.
Yeah.
Could we find someone who was like one of the first people ever to be in that old pool?
Yeah. Well, I was speaking to a gentleman at the Summit Center the weekend, Your Worship, and at the front counter as I was signing up for my membership, and he brought up the old pool. He remembers, he said, swimming in that when there was no roof on it.
There was no roof on it. That's
swimming
right.
in one end, he said, and the sun would strike you, and he said that's a while ago now. So, anyways, it's good to hear that. The closing of one pool is coinciding with the opening of our Summit Center. So, again, just if people don't already know, because there was a lot of activity there the weekend, the Dryland Fitness Program sections at the Summit Center are now open to the public. This includes your cardio, your weight training center, the program fitness rooms, and the spin room. Hours of operation are Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and on the weekend from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So the pool also, I think, opened this week to public swims, and all swimming lessons and aquatic programs are now moved to the Summit Center. And of course, there's a lot of excitement there. There was a swim meet there. We'll speak to perhaps under new business this weekend. The parking lot was blocked. There was nice complaints that they couldn't find parking anywhere, which is great, which means there was a lot of people using it. A lot of positive energy up at the Summit Center. So we encourage people to get out. I know memberships are going very well. We are impressed with the number of people signing up. And I've heard nothing but praise and compliments for those who have worked out at the center, walked through the center. So it's good to hear.
When do we get to cut a ribbon, guys? When do we get to do it?
18th of December.
The 18th, is it?
18th of December.
We get to do that thing, and
Thursday.
I now officially declare we want that happen.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
I think the mayor should do a cannonball in the new pool, just as a part of the official club. Just a thought, Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor has lost his mind.
or the jet slide. Yeah.
Director
Anyways.
of Community Services is being fired.
Yeah. So yes, that'll be on the 18th, Your Worship. So that's the second item. The third item here is a request for proposal, again tying into the Summit Center as well. Committee is recommending approval to award the food services agreement at our new Summit Center to Fireside Cafe and Food Services Limited for a term of 5 years, with an option to renew for an additional 2 years from the commencement date, and I so move.
It is moved by Deputy Mayor Locke, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Any question or comment? I understand that the food services that will be provided at the summit are not going to be the same food services one would get at the Glacier. That when you go to the summit, you won't be able to get those Great Arena fries. Is that right?
No.
That's why it's called Arena fries.
I have to call it.
There's no pool fries.
No, no pool fries. Yeah.
That's good.
Pools just don't taste the same with the smell of chlorine and other.
We will call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
And the last item, Your Worship, has to do with community food drive. As we know, Egg Walters was on the news about the shortage of food. I think he said 60,000 pounds, 40 to 60,000 pounds short. Just to let folks know that the City of Mount Pearl is also doing our part. The City of Mount Pearl we've placed food drive bins at City Hall in the main lobby, and of course at the Summit Center for anyone who would like to drop off food for the local food sharing association. As well, there is the Mount Pearl Minor Hockey Association is going to be hosting its third annual food drive, and that is the 13th of December, which is a Saturday. And they've approached the city, and we've agreed to join them in their effort to help collect food. Also, during the Santa Claus Parade, there will be opportunities as well for people to donate food items. So there's many ways that people can donate food, and of course, this time of the year, the need is always in people's minds. The giving spirit comes through, but just to remind people that the need continues far beyond the Christmas season. So there's ample opportunity for any folks who would like to donate over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. I see Councillor Tessier signaling.
Yep.
Councillor Tessier?
Yeah, just a point of note. Some people may not realize you can call your local church or your local schools to see if there's families who actually need Christmas dinner. So when we donate to food drives, we're donating usually non-perishables, but some families are in need of the full Christmas dinner, as most, many are. But you can actually sponsor a family their dinner on Christmas Day. You just got to call the schools or call the churches, provide the turkey, the vegetables, some dessert perhaps to that family. I know we did it last year. We'll do it again this year. It's a great initiative. And if you call up the schools and say, is there a family, you can be guaranteed there's going to be many families that will be looking for Christmas dinner.
I was not aware that program
Can I add to
existed.
that,
Thank
Your
you.
Worship, if you don't mind?
Councillor Aker.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, because there always has been traditionally a gap in the food sharing, because what is held at the food bank typically is either frozen, canned, or packaged. So when you adopt a family, as Councillor Tessier is talking about, basically you can provide them with a fresh turkey, fresh potatoes, vegetables, and the like. It really, really adds to the quality of the diet, not just to the quantity of food that people need to consume. Right?
It's not just related to food either.
True.
The churches do the gift things for the family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the whole, it's, part
That's
of the
it.
fun, it's the whole meal deal, isn't it?
That's it, right? You can call them. That's the point. You can call a church or a school and say, what's the need?
Anytime.
How can I help?
Okay, wonderful.
Just one other item I wanted to mention, Your Worship, about that. Learned this last year as we were participating in the food drive, is the food banks will check the dates on the products, and anything that's outdated and beyond the best before date, they will weed it out. So just a reminder to folks who are donating to have a look at the best before date on any of the packaged items or canned items, and make sure that they are indeed up to date. I do know that some of the things that they were looking for last evening on the news were peanut butter. That's a staple that it's a little more costly, but that's something that goes a long way. So I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, one of those, somebody is doing in Corner Brook and here, they're doing the 12 days of Christmas, and they're asking for an item every day to fill in the gap. And I know I heard it today on the radio that when they get to December 12th, it's peanut butter. And tomorrow it's going to be canned vegetables, and today it's a request for sandwich making. Cans of chicken, ham, whatever you have to make sandwiches. They're filling in gaps in the system. They're doing it, and they're using the 12 days of Christmas as a theme. It's a nice idea.
Let's face it, most of us, when we donate to a food drive, we're reaching into a cupboard and we're taking out a box, like we're taking out a box of something or a can of soup or something like that. But if there is a specific need for something like that, like peanut butter, for example, is a great source of protein as well. So if there's a specific need, I'd love to see something like that happening here, because you would see those gaps, as you say,
And
filled in for need.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's pretty good.
One thing I wanted to mention, Your
Councillor
Worship.
Soils.
One thing I want to mention that hasn't been mentioned is there's a registry now. No matter which church you go to, whether it's my church at St. Peter's or the Salvation Army or the Church of Good Shepherd, they all have a registry,
Yes.
and they all communicate together. One time a family could go and get 2 hampers, and usually, not that the people in need don't always ask, but sometimes the people who really need it or don't feel like calling and asking, and sometimes the worst people who really need it don't get it. So now they have a registry that if you register, no matter which church you register, if you call a school or a church, because the schools work with the churches as well, you only get 1 hamper per family. And then when you get a hamper, Christmas time is a different hamper than you would get throughout the year. When we give out our hampers throughout the year, they get a box of, whatever is, usually about 40 the $50. Christmas time is about $150 to $180 to give a hamper to a family. I think it went up last year from $150 to $180 at our church. So, and then if there's small children in that, there will be gifts for the children and that. So it's better to register with a church, and some of the companies too, a lot of businesses try and do it as well. And we encourage businesses, if they're doing it and they know a family, that's fine, but they're better off giving it to the churches to give out.
Thank you very much.
Because that's what the food bank does.
Any other comment? Okay, hearing none, I'm assuming that concludes community services. Moving on to corporate services, and Councillor Aker.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Council, there's only one item on the agenda comprised of 10 invoices to be approved or ratified by Council, totaling $1,706,967.51, noting that the bulk of this really is regional services, as well as some infrastructure related costs. For example, City of St. John's, we're paying for the regional wastewater to October 31st is $435,000. Water consumption for 1 month, $296 or $300,000, and our share of the regional fire department for December is $359,000, and that's how our taxpayers' money is spent. And a reminder for Council, as everybody's probably aware, we're bringing down the budget in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll call the question. It is moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier, to accept the 10 invoices for approval as listed. Any questions or comment from anybody? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Infrastructure Public Works Committee, Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of very brief items. The first is a very important one, however. That's for the emergency generator for City Hall. Last year, of course, as everybody knows, we had what was referred to somewhat affectionately as #DarkNL, and we...
Don't know if anybody said it affectionately, Councillor
yeah.
Walsh.
Well, probably not affectionately, no. A lot of people were badly, actually, didn't they?
Not pleasant memories.
Yeah.
With a little disdain, yes.
But...
One of those in Florida said affectionately.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let me correct that. Let me take that back. Anyway, Your Worship, I think it did underscore the need to make sure that we had appropriate emergency services in place, not just throughout the city, but I think a lot of different organizations, groups, community groups, and particularly levels of government are, crossing their T's and dotting their I's to make sure that their emergency services are in place as well. We're no different. We're proposing, and we put out bids for a large generator for City Hall for use in emergency situations. We're recommending that the contract be awarded to the lowest qualified bidder, which was Newfoundland Electrical Limited, for the amount of $152,278.80, HST included, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Do we have that generator on site?
No, we don't. I don't think so. I think this is just an approval to...
Okay, Director Silver has info.
That the generator is basically it's a stationary generator, and there needs to be a concrete pad and fencing and all that constructed. So that'll take a period of time once we award the tender.
So how long would you say this will take? Can we beat hydro? They say theirs will be ready in Holyrood by the end of December. Can we beat hydro?
I think when are they going to be?
Last of December.
No, we will not beat hydro. No, we will not.
We will not beat hydro.
We're thinking it's probably going to be sometime in February.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any other question or comment? Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, and that is a permanent attached is going to be wired into the system so that it can just flick a switch and very easily activate the generator.
Yeah, it's a rather large generator. We had one. We borrowed one, did we, during DarkNL last year? Or rented one for a while?
Yeah.
We still have that one, right?
We still have that one. This one, one of the main purposes of this one is twofold. For City Hall, it's to be able to use City Hall as our emergency operations center. But the other purpose is that all of our IT infrastructure currently runs out of City Hall. So basically, whenever the power goes out, all of our systems go down.
Go out with it.
So that's why this one is going to be a dedicated generator just for City Hall. The other one we have would be one I think that we move back and forth between Park Place, and we also have the ability to use it at Kenmare Park. So that one's going to be more for the warming shelter type thing uses.
So all of this updates our emergency plan yet again?
Yes.
We're getting better at this. Councillor Walsh, then, with your permission, I'm going to call the question.
Please.
If there's something else to add, all those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Okay, just further to that, we do have an emergency response vehicle now as well. That's going to be actually in the Santa Claus Parade this weekend, collecting food items, and the mobile generator can be transported in that to the various sites as well. So, you know, we are, as you say, getting a little better and filling out that emergency response plan a little more as well.
We always learn more when these things happen.
The winter activity report, Your Worship, the vehicles in our fleet is all ready, but I just want to throw out a word of caution and ask for the understanding of the public. Normally for the first 2 or 3 snowstorms, again, I think I've mentioned this before, or I may have, and so forgive me for repeating myself, but it's really important. We normally, you can check hydraulic hoses and the like, all you like, in a yard. The problem is that when they're exposed to winter or summer conditions, actually not winter conditions, UV rays in particular play havoc with the hosing and hydraulics. And then when you put pressure on the hoses during winter operations, normal winter operations, they often break because they're hardened and they break under pressure. So the first 2 or 3 snowstorms, typically we get breakdowns. We did last week when we had the first snowfall. We had several pieces of equipment, several loaders break down, almost all related to hydraulic hose breakdowns or equipment, hardening of the hoses. That's why we've been advocating now for some time for an indoor storage facility because if they can be stored and avoid the harmful UV rays, that would go a long ways towards mitigating some of the problems that we have early in the season. So again, the word is just a little patience, a little understanding. If we're delayed getting to your area, obviously you can still call the depot and check on it, but very often it's related to equipment failure or breakdown, and it's usually hydraulics, and it's usually for the first 2 or 3 snowfalls. After those repairs have been affected, they're usually fine for the rest of the winter. Very quickly, the roads work is obviously winding down now as you know, asphalt and that sort of thing winds down. The parks, we're concluding trails, open spaces, walkways, trailways, that sort of work. And, of course, our UTM work is an ongoing thing. Unfortunately, very often we get the worst breaks at the worst times. 3 o'clock in the morning on a stormy night, that's typical. It's not typical to get a break 24 degrees in the middle of July. That, unfortunately, rarely happens. So we're on that, and we've had 3 major breaks in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So we're working on that, and that's a bit of an ongoing thing. That's it for infrastructure, public works. Thanks very much.
Thank you. We're going to go to planning and development. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item on our agenda this evening is one that Council is very familiar with, that being the request for a variance on an accessory building at 52 O'Flaherty Crescent. Council will recall that we did receive a proposal for an accessory building, a shed, with a floor area of 26.75 square meters. Initially, there was a development permit that was issued on September 15th of 2014, permitting the accessory building to be constructed under all of the city's regulations. We did receive an inquiry, I should say, at one point after the permit was issued, inquiring about the height of the accessory building and whether or not it exceeded the city's regulations for building height. Of course, the regulation for the height of an accessory building is 3.5 meters. When a site inspection was conducted, it was determined that the height of the building was in fact 3.85 meters, and therefore it was beyond the regulation. At that point, then there was a request for a variance, as we say, from the property owner. He requested the council use the variance to be able to permit the height of 3.85 meters. Of course, that has to go through a public process, and on October 16th, there was a mail out, a notification to 81 property owners in the area regarding the process that this was going through. We did receive one representation from the neighboring property, once again questioning the height. Now, when when we initially went through the process, as we know, Committee of the Whole did discuss it, and the variance was approved initially based on the information that we had available at that time. However, we continued to receive concerns from the neighboring property owner, and ultimately a second site visit was conducted. At that time, it was determined that the height of the accessory building was not measured as it should have been, and therefore when it was measured correctly, it was determined that the height of the shed was in fact beyond what could have been approved with a variance. So at committee it was discussed once again, and it was certainly determined that we did have to do something with regards to the height, given that we could not use a variance to be able to approve this particular height. So the Planning and Development Committee recommends that the permit be revoked, the initial permit with the 10% variance, and that a new permit for the accessory building be issued, providing that the building meet the maximum height for an accessory building as outlined in the development regulations, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded. Any question or comment? Councillor Stoyles?
So this one now is approved, there's no 10% variance, there's no variance at all. Is that correct?
That is correct, Councillor.
This one will now be at 3.5 meters.
It will be at 3.5
That's correct.
meters.
Okay. All right. Councillor Walsh?
The bigger issue on this particular, I think all agree with we had an opportunity to discuss the community of the whole, and we agree with the proposal. But my concern is how the height is calculated generally. We all know that, I think this is prescribed, Mr. Yevchik, by the Department of Municipal Affairs. Some way or another, it has to be conveyed to municipal affairs that height as a proportion of the area of the roof is not a proper way to develop height. For example, we could have extended the eaves of this building, and any building could extend the eaves of the building and then be within the restriction, but it actually doesn't bring the height down, not 1 inch. So it seems to me that the means of calculation, and we don't set that, we don't establish that, is really misguided. And it allows for people to circumvent the regulations and to build accessory buildings that are excessively high, as long as they go out a little further with the eaving of the roof. So I'd like to make sure, in fact, have we in the past, Mr. Yevchik, made a submission to municipal affairs? We have. And what has their response been to that?
Mr. Yevchik?
Your Worship, we have made submission, I think both through M&L, in terms of asking municipal affairs to take a look at the building height requirement, and secondly, individually as the City of Mount Pearl directly to the minister a number of years ago. To the best of my knowledge, to this point, there's been no indication that they're actually following up and looking at it. But certainly, I think it is worthwhile continuing to pursue it because of the issues we're having in terms of our inspectors trying to measure these types of sheds that they do not have a flat roof. They have different kind of roofs. So I agree with you.
Just as a further to that, Your Worship, and I know that our director has been on top of this, and that's kind of why I asked the question. I think when we meet with our MAJs, that probably should be an item that we could put on the agenda for some discussion, and see if we cannot move this forward. I know, I think it was even the year before last that was a motion made to M&L to do it. We're not the only one experienced this. I know for a fact that in CBS, they've had all kinds of problems with shed heights, and most of these are initiated with certain kinds of roofs where the roof comes all the way down to the side, and it's just you can put a monstrosity up if that's the kind of roof covering you're going to have on it. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed, because a lot of municipalities, not just ourselves, are experiencing some difficulty with it, and it is a challenge for our planning staff, and it's even more of a challenge when you have a dwelling next door that has this very large accessory building next to it, and it's really not, I think the spirit and intent of the regulations are not being strictly applied. That's probably the best way to put it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Tessier?
Just a quick point of note. I think what we need to recognize, though, and I agree with everything, of course, that Councillor Walsh said, and with the recommendation from planning, but we have to recognize that there might be a difference between urban areas and rural areas when it comes to these regulations. So it may need to be broken out like that. Rural areas might have the ability.
Same means of measurement applies.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. Yeah, I understand that.
We can establish the regulations for height.
The measurement itself. That's right. The measurement itself.
How you measure it causes problems.
That's correct. So as long as we recognize that in urban areas, this is where we're really seeing the problem. Rural areas may not be as big a deal.
Having the same problem.
Well, CVS. I would consider CVS more urban than rural. So, but anyway, it's just a point of note that I agree with it 100% because this creates nothing but trouble for us. I think if it was possible to get the ball rolling, even over the course of the winter, we're going to see permits. We're going to see applications for sheds coming, of course, accessory buildings coming every spring as we do. So it would be nice if we could even get the ball rolling sooner if it's possible.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Deputy Mayor?
Do we have the authority to regulate the roof styles to accessory buildings in the city? Is that something that we could do if we can't get action, as Councillor Walsh has suggested, that we contact Municipal Affairs because they outline? Is it within our authority then that we would prefer a certain roof style in the city? Is that something that we could regulate?
My knee-jerk reaction would be trying to regulate style may be a little bit of a challenge, but roof types. Mr. Yevchak, a comment or thought on that?
I think we probably do have the authority if we decide to put it directly in our regulations in terms of, we will only accept this kind of roof style. And I'm just saying that kind of off the top of my head. I mean, it's something to be investigated. If council is interested in pursuing that avenue rather than trying to get a definitive height requirement, we'd have to take a look at that, and I'd have to get back to you. But I believe we probably do have that authority.
Yeah, I think that what the Deputy Mayor is trying to achieve here is a way around a regulation that doesn't work, as opposed to changing regulation that doesn't work, right?
No, height in general.
Height in general.
Well, no, that's not really fair because the measurement is different. No, but we could lessen the height. Yeah.
If we could.
That we would have to comply in the measurement, we couldn't exceed that height. We could do that ourselves.
Your Worship.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Yevchak again.
Yeah, the issue isn't really I guess the height of a shed or height of a building. It's not just sheds but also houses. That's not usually a problem because, as Councillor Walsh has just mentioned, you can regulate how high you want those structures to be. The problem is when you have a measurement that in one instance is at the top of the roof, and in another instance, because of the type of roof that it is, it's measured halfway up, the midpoint of a roof, then you get this odd kind of situation where the height says one thing, but the actual height varies depending on the roof style, and that's what the issue is. And when you take a look at, let's say, our requirement of 3.5 meters, when we apply 3.5 meters to a flat roof on an accessory building, it's a good measurement in terms of getting inside a shed and being able to do some work. If you put it on a gambrel roof, which has kind of a peak like that, I was telling you just bump that up considerably. That's part of the problem. So to make it very simple, from our perspective, is that if you just had a maximum height from the established grade to the top of the roof, regardless of what the roof is, you'd be able to control it much better.
That would be such a simple problem. I think everyone has spoken to this now. You have not, Councillor Aker?
No, I know where the Deputy Mayor is coming from, because basically he's trying to cut through the bureaucracy, I guess, to see if we can get a solution without having to change the Constitution, if you will. But the shed type we're talking about is the baby barn look, basically, right? And the reason that you do the calculation to split the height is because the roof is half side of the building and half roof. That's part of the rationale for it at the end of the day. I wouldn't want to ban that type of roof because, geez, when I look around my neighborhood, I think half the houses that have sheds have the old traditional, you know what I mean, not flat roof, but, the traditional peak, and about half of them have the baby barn look too, right? You know what I mean? Which they would be, but that's a very popular type of shed that's out there, right? I agree. The issues with the height, I'd like to be able to just say, look, the calculation, as the director said, the calculation starts with the very peak of the roof. Don't care about the slope. Don't care about what parts are side versus roof. Just go to the height, go to the peak,
and there you are.
And then start at the bottom. And that's the issue with this particular shed. Well, where did the bottom really get established, right? And obviously, I think the regulation is pretty clear there. It's based on grade. It's not necessarily based on the floor of the item, right? You know what I mean? So, you mean we have to go to municipal affairs just to say that for this type of roof, we want to calculate the height based on the peak?
Yep.
Good luck.
Can we regulate the height for the different roof
You're
structures?
the only one can't talk here, Andrew, sorry.
Can we regulate that? Like if you want to have your gambrel roof, can we say, okay, with the flat roof, 3.5 meters. The gambrel roof is, 2.8 meters. Is there any way we could do that to ensure that the peak of any roof height stays within the 3.5 meters?
Your Worship, we'll have to take a look at that. I'm taking notes, and we can probably bring back a report on that. Without making another comment, we do need to take a look at it.
Okay. All done? Now, Councillor Ledwell, you can close the debate on this if you want.
Well, Your Worship, thank you. No, I mean, there's not really much left to say, I suppose, but only to say that we'll certainly bring it back to committee, as the Director says, and at this time, I guess we'd just like to move the motion that we approve this new development permit, providing this new shed remains at or below 3.5 meters according to the regulations. And I so move.
Okay, it is moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Walsh. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
We'll see what happens. The next one is an application for driveway access redesign, expansion, and site work. This is the Newfoundland Power site at 877 Topsail Road. Currently, of course, they have an entrance to that particular site that meets the regulations that the city has in place. Those being that the entrance or the access driveways to a property have to be a minimum of 7.5 meters wide and a maximum of 12 meters wide with a 9-meter turning radius. In this particular case, Newfoundland Power is looking to widen the access driveway by a considerable margin. Primary reason for it, of course, is they want to be able to accommodate a mobile transformer unit, which is about 120 feet long, and it has a turning radius of 18 meters. So you can imagine trying to make that turn and get that particular mobile transformer unit onto that site. What they're proposing is to put in a proposed driveway with a width of with a widened access at approximately 16.5 meters at the property boundary, and the proposed access width at the curb would be approximately 31.5 meters. Of course, having this particular unit stored at the site on Topsail Road would be of great benefit. Councillor Walsh mentioned hashtag DarkNL, and I won't talk about it affectionately, but certainly I would infer that given the talk of DarkNL and the generator, this would certainly be a good unit to have in place. Now, of course, it also means that there is some safety concern that would arise from making this wide access. And of course, in committee we discussed that, and what we would like to see put in place is some kind of safety measure, some way to mitigate the safety of pedestrian, or the issue to the safety of pedestrians on Topsail Road. We'd like to see a crosswalk put in, or perhaps an island that would be present in the middle of the access, or at some point along there, so that it would be safe for pedestrians who may be moving along Topsail Road. In addition, it was noted in committee that at some point the city may consider widening Topsail Road. This was communicated to Newfoundland Power, and they have committed to take responsibility to do the work on their site that would be associated with widening their part of Topsail Road. So they're on board with that. They understand what their responsibility would be there. That being said, it is the recommendation of the Planning Committee that, pursuant to the Mount Pearl Development Regulations, Council would use its discretionary authority to approve this driveway width as proposed by Newfoundland Power at 877 Topsail Road, with a permit to be issued subject to the conditions as outlined above, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Question or comment? Deputy Mayor Locke.
Just about the safety aspect, the width of this opening, this proposed opening, and I know Councillor Ledwell spoke to this, and in the report it says, safety measures being introduced. So if we give the development permit, obviously we don't have the definitive how they're going to address this wide span on Topsail Road just yet. So, but it's conditional upon us receiving that back to council that we approve it first before they proceed with widening of this particular. It will come back here. Okay, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Aker.
I was looking for a place in the city that might be comparable to this.
Yeah.
And I think if you go on Brookfield Road, near the Orange store,
Yes.
the parking lot of the Orange store and the gas station basically blends right in with the road. They have painted lines there. I don't know if that's the city's lines or if it's the owner of the property's lines, but I can tell you right now, without those lines, and I guess this is to your point, Deputy Mayor, we need to make sure those safety mitigation issues get dealt with. Without that line there, it's really hard to tell as you're coming in towards Mount Pearl to turn on the Commonwealth. It's really hard to distinguish between the parking lot and the roadway, and that's just for a vehicle, let alone a pedestrian. So I guess at a very minimum, we would be putting in some painted lines and maybe other measures.
I look at the expansive entrance and egress that you've got at Donovan's Irving, where you have really there's kind of three different accesses, if you will, there, and two of them are substantially large. I'm not sure, given that that is not the side of the street that people would walk on anyway, that they're not correct here, and that you're not as well, that maybe just some paint, some other way of, delineating this area might work. Certainly, I have no objection to it. Anyway, any other final thoughts from anyone? Call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moving on, our third item this evening is an application for a second building on the lot at 621 Kenmount Road. It's the Avalon Ford site, and initially we had received a proposal for a second building on the lot, which would have a floor area of 167.2 square meters. That was going to be used for some storage of their snow clearing equipment and what have you. However, we now have a new proposal with a gross floor area of 350 square meters, and this is going to be to accommodate not only storage but also wash bays up on site. Just want to note, I guess, that the proposed location of this revised building is below the 190 meter contour, so that particular piece doesn't come into play here. Of course, there is a servicing question. They are proposing to service this from the existing building. The proposal was referred to Engineering Services at the city for their commentary, and it has been determined that, after a meeting with the folks at Avalon Ford, that this can be accommodated, that there is no issue with the proposal for the servicing from the second building. So we did discuss it at committee, and we did feel that as long as the servicing issue was addressed and there was no problem, according to Engineering Services staff, that we would recommend that the proposal to undertake the construction of a second building on the lot with that gross floor area of 350 square meters be accommodated, and that a development permit be issued, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Question or comment? Hearing none. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Our next item, Your Worship, is another property on Kenmount Road, this time 727 Kenmount Road. It's an application for a telecommunications structure, a self-supporting tower from Grundy Telecom Integration Incorporated. Currently on the site, there are two towers that exist, and they're AM towers. They have the guy wire systems on there, of course. That's all going to be now replaced by a singular FM radio frequency tower. The VOAR radio station is going to be moving to FM at this point, and that's why they're proposing to put in this new tower. You'll see there that the property is in a zone that will be able to accommodate this particular development. The subject property is in close proximity to the municipal boundaries of the town of Paradise and the city of St. John's. Both municipalities have been made aware of the development, and neither one have an issue. There was a notice of this particular proposal placed in the Telegram on September 20th, and of course we did do a mail out as per the city's public notification policy to 34 property and business owners within the 150 meter radius of the property, and there were no responses. Therefore, our briefing session that we had scheduled was canceled. After discussion with the committee, we are prepared to recommend that the application for the construction of the new FM tower be approved, and that a development permit be issued subject to the conditions outlined in the report, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Questions?
Yeah, I got a question, Your
Comments? Deputy Mayor Locke.
Just wondering, I mean, almost 107 meters in height. That's quite a structure. How does that compare? About 310 feet, is it? 315 feet? How does that compare to the existing? I'm just trying to get perspective here. Any idea what the height of the two towers that are currently on that site?
I think it's going to be about. I think it's about the same.
About the same?
I
No?
stand to be correct. A little higher.
Your Worship, it is higher. I don't have the exact height, but it is. It will be significantly higher. Significantly higher. Yeah. Now, what they do have there is 2 towers at the present time.
Right.
And what they're going to do is replace those 2 towers with this one FM tower, which will have. The height is important for them to get a broader coverage, and that's what the issue is.
Sure.
And it has been referred to all the authorities that are required, and it is within an industrial park as well. So from our perspective, yeah, we don't see any.
Well, that's what they're doing is they're opening up that piece of land for future development. Yeah.
Quick question, Your Worship.
All right, Councillor Aker.
Just looking at it now, of course, I don't want the towers to fall, okay? But it's 300 and some odd feet. If it does fall, the fall zone here is adequate because it's much larger than the other one. I think the frontage on the property or the side yard is 189 meters. So is that accurate? So I guess if it were to fall and fall straight without collapsing, it wouldn't land on something else. It wouldn't land on something else, would it?
Right now, but it will. There will come a point when other structures will be built there. Mr. Yevchek, additional information?
Yeah, additional information, Your Worship. We have no fall zone requirement in our regulations. If the council will recall, we did have that at one point, and Industry Canada met with us and advised us we don't have the authority to put that in there. Antennas are federal jurisdiction, and they have the authority to locate and approve the location of antennas. When we did discuss the idea of fall zones, it was really around an antenna in Donovan's Business Park, and they made it very clear to us that we don't have the authority to put that in there. In the case of this property, they do have substantial green space that, it shouldn't be as much of an issue, but you are correct. They do have an application. I believe we've issued a development permit for a radio station and office. This tower is for the Voice of Adventist Radio church group, and they intend now to move where they are on Topsail Road to this site when they redevelop it with their new radio station offices and FM antenna.
All right, thank you. Call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Next item, Your Worship, is we have an occupancy of a tank farm at 30 Kyle Avenue without a permit.
Yeah.
There was a violation issued to the property owners in September of 2014. There were numerous outstanding matters that were required to be resolved before the occupancy permit was granted. We did give them some time, and yes, some progress was made on several of the issues. However, there remains still a number of issues that are outstanding. The owners were advised that these items were to be addressed by October 10th of 2014. They still remain outstanding. They have not been addressed, and they do need to be addressed, of course, before the occupancy permit can be issued. So we did discuss this at committee, and the committee recommends that an order be issued to the property owners of 30 Kyle Avenue to cease occupancy of the property until such time as the outstanding matters have been addressed to the satisfaction of the city and an occupancy permit issued, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
Next item, Your Worship, is a request to waive heat pump requirements from 30 Sauvé Street. The property owner proposes to install a heat pump in the interior side yard of his lot to service his dwelling at 32 Sauvé. Of course, he has come forward stating that this is a super quiet unit. The neighbor has signed a letter indicating that he doesn't mind that the unit be installed, and of course he's provided photos and information on similar units. However, as Council well recalls, we did recently put in place regulations that do dictate that heat pumps and air conditioners and like units are to be installed in the rear of the property rather than in the side yard. So it is the recommendation of the committee that the proposal to install the heat pump in the side yard at 32 Solvay Street be refused, as it does conflict with the regulations regarding heat pumps that were put in place recently, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
Our next item, Your Worship, is our development permit list for the period of November 17th to the 28th of 2014. You'll see there are two development permits, one being, of course, the subdivision development for Phase 4 up on Moffat Road. Has been the topic of much discussion recently. This is, of course, just the subdivision development, and we are not issuing any building permits.
This is the cleaning and grubbing permit,
exactly. That's right. We are not issuing any building permits until such time as the issues in the area are dealt with.
I'm curious about the next one.
The bottling plant at Glencoe Drive. I'll defer to the director. You have taken on that one.
Yeah, I'm just curious. How does that work?
Your Worship, this is there's an existing company that's in Donovan's. Actually, I believe they're also on Glencoe Drive. Trying to think what their name is now, but they are currently operating a bottling plant based on an artesian well from a building. Actually, it's quite close to the Sears building. Actually, thank you. So it's the same company that is now moving to this site with the same intent of doing a bottling plant using artesian well water.
Why would we let them use artesian well water?
There's been no reason why we wouldn't.
I think of water meters and cost, and being in an industrial park, I think of people that we've turned down because there wasn't the city water available to their development and so on. It's just to me a curiosity that we would actually allow any kind of, I'll call it separate well in the city anywhere.
Your Worship?
Correct. Yeah, they take ground with it. Yeah.
Just me.
May I?
Go ahead, Councilor.
The Pearl Springs has been in operation over there, I think, for at least 20 years.
But yeah, now they're moving.
And there is no spring, but they're taking the operation with them. There is no
drill
real spring unless
they're drilling another well.
It's an underground spring. And what you talk about with the water, I agree. If you're using the water for your own consumption,
it's just
you should use clean water and city water. They're actually using this. This is their product that they will bottle and sell as Pearl Spring water. It's underground water basically that's being bottled. They're not avoiding the city's water system. They're actually bottling this, I'm assuming under regulation, as a product, whether it's food or whatnot, and actually reselling it. No different than in somewhere in Newfoundland down Trapassi. There's a spring on the surface.
Water,
Thank you. That's all I can add.
Sure. It just seems unusual in Mount Pearl.
It is. It's very innovative.
Oh, they are, absolutely. Sure they are. Yep.
If I just can clarify again, just first of all, in terms of development permit, a couple of things. We've noted on the development permit that they're, first of all, not allowed to use the city water because, again, that would be a drain on our water system. We are asking that to make sure the building is metered in case, just in case. Lastly, this is regulated by the Department of Environment and Conservation. So the quality of the water, the yield, and so on, they are subject to their requirements for this use. So from our perspective, regulatory perspective, there's no issue with this if it meets the environment standards.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, which, by the way, prompts me to go back and jump back just a step. The washing bays for Avalon Ford, right? They will be metered, right? Automatic. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. We got to call the question, don't we? All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. In the interest of keeping things flowing, just a couple of other items.
That's our pun of the day, right there.
We have the building permit totals for the period November 17th to the 28th. First of all, we have the residential total for the period, which totals up to $2,623,800, and I so move. Moved
and seconded. A lot of houses being built, eh? Look at this.
Yeah.
And boy, there's none of them cheap? Well, yeah, I suppose. Well, none of them are cheap. 200,000 would be considered inexpensive, would it not? I hate the word cheap.
At this point, it
right?
certainly
That's
would.
pretty reasonable price, right? But yeah, these are not necessarily selling for that. Right? They're not necessarily. And I would think they don't. All right.
All right.
2.6 million. That's good development.
Call the question.
All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
And finally, Your Worship, the commercial building permit totals for the same period, November 17th to the 28th. Another busy period there. 1,219,400, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, sir. Transportation Public Safety Committee report. Councillor Tessier.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually do have a handout. I wasn't fast enough on the draw earlier when you asked if there was any additions to the agenda.
Oh, you're not allowed to use it now.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna. The report that's in the kit, there's a little bit of an update on that. So I've got the updated version here. It's slight, but you will notice it. First of all, we want to let people know that our snow clearing regulations are now officially in effect.
Yep.
They took effect December 1st. And we want to list out the fines that are associated with,
They're wrong, aren't they,
restrictions. No, there's nothing wrong. I'll tell you now what the difference is. First of all, in Section 3, the minimum fine is $30. No vehicle is permitted to be parked on any street within the city from December 1st to March 31st each year, both days inclusive, between the hours of 1 a.m. and 8 a.m.
What does both days inclusive?
That means December 1st and March 31st as well.
Oh, including both those 2 days.
You got it.
Okay.
Section 4, the minimum fine is $30, and these are minimum fines, by the way. No vehicle is permitted to be parked on any street within the city during a storm and for 12 hours thereafter. That's very clear. It's to allow us to snow clear properly. So during a storm and for 12 hours after a storm, you are not permitted.
I'm going to stop you for one quick question there, for
Okay.
clarification. If I take my car out of my driveway and I park it on the street well inside 24 hours or 12 hours after a storm, say 3 hours after a storm, am I taking my chances, or is that going to be forgiven?
You're taking your chances.
Okay.
Most
Does
people.
anyone see the irony and...
Oh, you're out there.
You're there. You can move your car if the plow comes. That's what.
You're out there, keys are in the vehicle, moving in.
Yeah.
As long as you're with it.
Yes.
So if you're out there blowing your snow and you got it parked on the side of the street, you're good to go.
Because you'll see the plow coming. You'll see the
and
plow
I bring it up
coming.
because last year a guy got a ticket.
Yes.
2 years ago? Well, maybe there's two guys, but...
But if you're there clearing your driveway, you're there. You can see the plow approaching. We're going to ask people to pull in. But if you park your car, if you clear your driveway, and you go back inside for lunch, or you decide to leave your car in front of your property so that when the plow does come, it doesn't fill in your driveway that you just cleared, that's a problem.
All right, that's what I wanted clarified, that's all. I just, because people, you wouldn't want people getting tickets when they were
No,
out trying to
everybody
clear
needs to clear their driveway in a storm. Everybody needs to clear their driveway
Yeah.
after
Okay,
a storm.
good.
But
That's
as
good.
long as you're there and you can move your car in, we'd ask you to do that as well. Pull your car into your driveway if you can so we can clear your street properly.
That's just what I love to do. Plow my driveway.
I know.
See the plow come, move my car back in the driveway so he can plow me back in.
You could drive
I
around the block.
I absolutely love it.
You know what? Here's a sentence that we all have to get used to saying, and we've said it 1,000 times. Winter is a very frustrating time of year.
You think?
Winter is a very frustrating time of year.
Oh my, oh my.
Section 5. Any unattended vehicle parked on any street contrary to these regulations may be removed and impounded at the owner's expense.
Yep.
Section 6, and this is where you'll see there's a little bit of, there's a few additions to add here. The minimum fine is $30 during the period from the day of December, from the first day in December and each year to the 31st day of March in any succeeding year, both days inclusive, so both those days, no person shall shovel, plow, blow, or cause snow to be shoveled, plowed, or blown any residue snow from a driveway onto a parking lot, or from a driveway or parking lot onto the highway, carriageway, sidewalk within the municipal boundaries of the city. So you cannot take snow from your driveway and pile it onto the sidewalk. We see this being problematic, particularly in school zone areas where the children have to walk to school and they need the safety of that sidewalk. When we have a storm, we do our main thoroughfares, and we get our sidewalks done as quickly as possible in our school zone areas. It is imperative that those sidewalks are kept clear so that the children can walk safely, and you will be ticketed if you are caught or discovered shoveling snow into those clear sidewalks. So that was an addition that we thought was very important to be clarified here.
So what about the people who are famous for getting out their big scoop, as they call it, and pushing the snow out of their driveway across the street?
If they're pushing it onto somebody else's property, or
piling
onto
it in front of somebody's lawn or whatever, but basically it's on the curb, still on the street.
yeah,
Somebody else's driveway.
that's a problem. That's like, well,
Is that also a ticketable?
yeah,
Snow they leave on the road. Right?
yeah.
So that's also a ticketable offense.
Taking your chances.
You're taking your chances.
We're going to
okay?
ask everybody to be, I mean, again, this is a really challenging time of year. We all, like, nobody likes it. As much as fun as winter can be with all your winter sports and recreational activities, and that's true, when it comes to snow clearing, it can be very, very frustrating.
Well,
but
where
we
do
have
you
to
put
be,
it is where
yeah.
some people have
Oh,
frustration.
absolutely.
I think of where Andrew lives. Your neighbor's got to be sometimes looking around going, what am I going to do with this?
Not only my neighbors.
You too. Yeah, you know. Right. All right, thank you for that.
All right.
This much this winter, so don't worry about it.
That's right. I read that today. Less snow and warmer temperatures. Yeah. Uh-huh. Hashtag NL Tropics. That's right. Okay, a couple of other quick little items. We want to remind our residents that the Mount Pearl Lions Club Parade is taking place on Saturday coming.
Hey, are we walking or riding this year, guys?
Walking.
We can walk.
There's no
We're
way.
all going to walk this year?
No way
Yes.
to get on the parade. Just
It's starting at 10 o'clock at Mount Pearl. It says Mount Pearl Intermediate School, Mount Pearl Intermediate, and Mount Pearl Senior High are flipped now, so it's in that area.
Where it always starts.
Where it always starts, so we're going to go right along Ruth and Park, and we're going to finish at Mount Pearl Square on Topsail Road. So, of course, anybody who wants any more information can call the Mount Pearl Lions Club at 368-6186. And, of course, on December 6th as well at 6:30 here at City Hall in Centennial Square, we are having our tree lighting ceremony again. The Salvation Army Mount Pearl Brass Band is going to be here, and Mary Queen of the World Elementary School Choir is going to be here. So everybody's going to be beautifully entertained. It's hopefully going to be a great weather night. We are encouraging people to dress very warm. Hot chocolate's going to be provided, but of course you're going to still want your mitts.
And we're going to light the tree.
And we're going to light the tree.
How good is it? Hopefully it works. Thank you very, very much, and hopefully it works, says the Grinch. Says Councilor Grinch over in the corner. Hopefully it's going to work. Director Collins is going nodding. He said, yes, it's going to work. I know it's going to work. We are up. That concludes committee reports. We're up to new business. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Two quick items here. First, I want to acknowledge Mr. Neil Windsor. The naming of the municipal building on Friday. Unfortunately, work commitments did not allow me to attend, and I know some of the other council members were there, so they will certainly speak to it further, but I heard nothing but compliments and praise, and it was a very well done, nice event all around. So I just wanted to publicly congratulate Mr. Windsor. I was thinking the other day as I was speaking with Director Antle about Mr. Windsor, and he was the first engineer, I think, to enter provincial politics. So Mr. Antle was all excited about that. But it was Mr. Windsor who got me interested or made me realize at a very young age that you could make a difference in your community. We lived on West Hills, now called Kenmount Park, and at the time we had no playground facilities up there. We used to rake off a gravel parking lot behind Green Superette years ago, and that's where we played our baseball in the summer months. It was a gravel pit. And I remember speaking to Mr. Windsor, and he encouraged us to get a petition. We did. He brought it forth. He read our letter in the House of Assembly, and lo and behold, we got some playgrounds at the bottom of Farrell Drive, and they sodded over a massive field at the top of Farrell Drive and put in swing sets so we could actually slide going into first base without ending up at the Janeway Hospital looking for skin grafts afterwards. So again, we were very young people at the time, but you know, he took our concerns seriously, and he acted on them for us. So I'm delighted that we were able to bestow this honor upon Mr. Windsor. He's affectionately known by many people as Mr. Mount Pearl, so I just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Windsor publicly.
Yes, sir.
The second thing, Your Worship, has to do with the Summit Centre. We had the Body Quest Heats and Finals Invitational Tournament up at the Summit Centre this past weekend. We had 10 teams from across Newfoundland and Labrador with over 10 clubs represented, over 300 swimmers here. So it
Got
was
there on time, did you?
it was a very busy. I got there just as they were giving out the medal ceremony, or the medals, and Councillor Tessier did a wonderful job welcoming all participants here. I don't remember all the winners from the Mount Pearl Marlins, only one, and I don't want to single anyone out, but I'll give her praise to more in class because she happens to be one of my students, and I had the honor of giving her gold medal. But at the end of it, I don't fully understand how swim meets operate. I'll be honest up front. But they took away the top team award. Am I saying that correctly? So they won the most points. So the first swim meet at the Summit Centre, our Mount Pearl Marlins had the most points and took away the award. So it was a beautiful plaque with the Summit Centre on it. It was a great weekend. They were super excited, and of course, compliments all around.
And everything worked well?
Worked amazingly.
Yeah, they had a few glitches the first night, but that was because they were plugging them in the wrong.
Right.
Yeah, and
got
they,
that fixed in 10 minutes.
That was because they didn't know how to use
The
it.
officials
Not
did
that it
that,
was
yeah.
not working.
And apparently they used the technology from the Summer Games, was it? The 77 Summer Games, and they were carting these all over the city. But now, Mr. Kennedy, was it, telling us all the details of this, like what they're able to show in terms of when they leave the board, how quick their time is, when they touch. Like, they were just amazed at the technology. He said there's no other place around that has this level of thing. So the swimmers were delighted, the parents were delighted, the spectators were delighted. So I just want to send huge congratulations and kudos out to the staff at the Summit Centre and Community Services. Little things always pop up with these big events, but it was put together relatively quickly with the closing of the old pool, and they just did an amazing job. And I do want to compliment, when I signed up for my own membership, there was, dozens and dozens of people coming in to do swimming lessons for the first time. And we had two staff members on the front counter, one on the counter and the other greeting, welcome to the Summit Centre, can I help you out, and directing them to where they go. And it's just a facility just to be so proud of, and it was great to see that we kicked it off with that swim meet, and of course that we took home the...
Little humility wouldn't hurt us.
No, I can't help it. I can't help it. I was beaming with pride up to the whole
Councillor
weekend.
Tessier, you could feed her with a dustpan. For God's sake.
But that's it for me, Your Worship.
Last
Thank
time
you.
she had a smile like that, someone asked her to marry her. I just know it. Thank you. Councillor Stiles.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of items. First of all, I want to mention that last Sunday I attended the Marconi Girl Guides 55th anniversary, and I'd like for you to send off a letter to the Marconi Girl Guides.
Be honored to do that.
They've been around in Mount Pearl a long time.
55
years, and they've put an awful lot into the community. They've done a lot. And what they did, they had an afternoon tea, and they invited all the former guide who was there, and there was a number of them, a few of them that had been there right from the start, and they had all kinds of stuff laid out from when they started, and pictures. I must say it was a lovely afternoon, and I was delighted to be there to represent council. Also, Your Worship, the past couple of weeks and today I attended the Regional Water Committee and Wastewater Committee with all the other regions here in the city at St. John's. I have an update for that to present to Committee the Whole tonight, and Regional Fire we met a week ago, so I have those reports to pass on to council. Also, I too want to mention Neil Windsor. Neil Windsor certainly is Mr. Mount Pearl, not only to the people who remember him, but the people who are coming, because Neil Windsor did more in Mount Pearl as an MHA and working for the city than most other people have done. He went beyond as a role as an MHA. He certainly brought a lot into Mount Pearl. He was certainly the fighting Mount Pearler when it comes to the fighting Newfoundlander. If there was something that anybody thought couldn't happen in Mount Pearl, and Neil Windsor thought it should happen in Mount Pearl, it did happen. He was responsible for starting the Winter Carnival along with a couple of other people. He did so much, and I'm so delighted to see him being honoured in this way. And I was certainly honoured to be up at the Neil Windsor depot and at the facilities afterwards, and it was a privilege to be there and shake his hand. Like I said, he did an awful lot for the community and for the city of Mount Pearl and for the province in whole. and I'm delighted to see the city honour him in this way. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Councillor, very much. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'll just start with my own personal congratulations as well with Neil. One of the comments that was read, I read a note as MC from A. Brian Peckford, as it's called. And one of the things that he said, and this really struck home with the people who were there, I think, he said in all of the cabinets that he's had and that he's had as Premier, there was never a stronger advocate or community leader than Neil Windsor. I think that said it all. Like all these different ministers and MHAs, people that worked in various cabinets of Brian Peckford, no one was stronger than Neil Windsor as a community advocate. So kudos to him. I think he was really humbled by it, and it was a very beautiful ceremony for sure. And again, congratulations to all staff who did a fabulous job both at the depot and at the Shadow Park Hotel. It was just a class act from beginning to end, and it was great to be part of it. The other thing that I want to mention, Your Worship, on Saturday, Councillor Tessier mentioned the Santa Claus Parade. We're really trying to make our contribution as well with the various locations that are happening now with the food banks, to help the food banks and the shortage that's there. But along the parade route, it's one thing to have people collecting food, and it's another thing to have our emergency truck available to take that food. But we really need to get the word out there that people are really asked now, because we haven't done this in the same large way that some others have. Please, when you're coming to the parade route on Saturday, bring with you some non-perishable food items. They will be collected. They'll be deposited in our vehicle that we'll have there, and if we need to empty that vehicle and come back and get more, we'll do that. That'd be a great complaint to have. So please do that. Support the food drive on the route. It's a great occasion to do it. Give some food to your children and some packages and bags, and we'll have them ready, and we'll be happy to collect them for you. So just a reminder to the people to do that. Do we have any other means by which we can get this message out, or do we have any PSAs or anything related to the parade where we can maybe add this as an addendum? I just want to make sure that the message gets out to the people who are along the route.
I think we'll look to Mr. Collins and our Department of Communications to do something with it. I know I've got a little note made that Friday morning I'm supposed to call the open line show and have a chat to promote the parade and the tree lighting, and there's no reason why we can't promote the food drive a little extra as well. But I don't know whether we've got any PSAs. Has everybody gone out to record some Christmas greetings yet?
Yes.
I have not gone out yet to do that either. So
Do mine for me, will you?
yeah, do yours for you. Yeah.
Throw your voice.
That doesn't really work very well. They'll know as soon as I say hi. I'm Dave Aker. They're going to know. Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Tessier.
Yep, I
You
forgot.
were smiling. You had a big broad
listen.
smile because of this here.
For a couple of reasons. Swim meets are dear to my heart because I'm a former Marlins parent. So when I hear them talking about the formula that's used to determine top team, sometimes that gets very close. It has to do with the number of swimmers and the number of points and all that stuff. And it's very specific. Oh, listen, very complicated. But I will tell you this, scores came back for awards much faster this time because everything is so automated. It's right there. They came back much faster, so awards were ready much, much sooner. But yes, when they started announcing top teams, and you can see everybody just hanging on, and it was our very first meet at the summit. You know we want the Marlins to be the top team at that pool in their first meet. So yes, it was very exciting that they were.
I wanted the teams that were there, not our own, to go away blown away.
Oh, they did.
You know, to say, boy,
they were
you know,
impressed.
Coach, when can we get back there again? You know, that's what I want.
The Marlins blew them out of the water, and so did the facility.
They were impressed. They were everybody was very, very impressed.
Fabulous.
Yes, I suspect not just the swimmers but the spectators to have such a comfortable spectating area where you can sit and cheer your swimmers on. Right now, there's nowhere else in the province that you can do what you can do there. It's incredibly comfortable and just wonderful. And it was so neat to walk in. I know Councillor Aker was there as well, but when I walked in to see everybody just sitting there, they're just sitting in their own individual chairs. They're not squatting on a bench. They're just sitting there in their own space, and it was just wonderful.
Excellent.
Okay, I want to provide a little more information about the Community Food Sharing Bank.
Yep.
At the parade on Saturday, and this is something we have not mentioned, loonies can be donated.
Oh, guaranteed. Good.
So you can actually provide money as well. Now, you don't need to stop at Looney's if you don't want to.
We'll take Toonies too.
Now, you don't need to stop at Looney's.
We just won't make change.
So Looney's can be donated to the Community Food Sharing Bank, so I assume that somebody's going to be en route collecting Looney's as well. But again, you don't need to stop yourself with just Looney's.
Okay.
Okay, the Summit Center. I actually also signed up for my membership yesterday, and I think my husband is signing on for his membership as well. There's a couple of things that make it really special. I mean, aside from the fact that the building is just absolutely beautiful, but while I was there working out, I noticed that there was a class of Aquafit people going in to work out in the pool, some older ladies, and they went in, and as they did, the music came on, the bright fluorescent lights in the pool got turned down. It was almost like this cool, dim vibe to it. It was really, really neat. It actually made me want to go suit up and get in the pool and work out as well, which is probably going to happen. But that's really neat. That means that we're catering to our customers. People actually are having a really fun, enjoyable, custom almost workout for themselves. The walking track, I've not seen it empty. I've been up there now a couple of times working out. I've not seen anybody not walking on the track. Staff there are absolutely fabulous. They're on hand if you're trying to figure out a machine, how to use it, how to work it. They're right there to show you, to make recommendations, which was great. Try the Jacob's Ladder. Holy smokes. If you ever want to burn a couple of calories, go on that Jacob's Ladder for 5 minutes. That'll kill you.
Just a couple of calories for 5 minutes?
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'll tell you now.
Try the Jacob's Ladder, that'll kill you.
Our director in charge
I'm not
of
sure that that's a
insurance
recommendation
also,
or not.
Jay,
Is that
actually-
a recommendation or a warning?
It's a
And
funny
you're gonna
thing.
die.
It's a funny thing because when like I can get on these machines and I can go. He says to me, if you want a good cardio workout, go on Jacob's Ladder. He said, go on it only for a maximum of about 5 minutes, but don't try. He said, do like 45 seconds at a time, a minute at a time. And I'm thinking, whatever. And I went over. I got to tell you, after 60 seconds, you are very ready to stop and take a little break. It's amazing. And Peak
15
Radio,
seconds in my world.
the Summit Peak Radio is playing over in.
Peak Radio.
Peak
Have our own
Radio
radio
is
station.
playing.
Yes.
Yeah, Peak Radio is playing in the facility, which
Well,
is absolutely
Summit,
fabulous.
Peak, come on.
Peak Radio,
It wasn't the reach.
and no, that's right. And if you're like me and you need to have your music right into your ears, really loud, you can log on to your app on your phone, onto your Songs or something like that, and tap into our free Wi-Fi, which is absolutely wonderful to offer to people as well. And the service, the signal is great. Anyway, it's a wonderful facility. I've been up there a couple of times already working out. I've loved every second of it, and people there seem to be very, very happy. And as
Okay,
for the
we
Neil
get it.
Windsor,
you think the place is cool.
yes, it is. It's very cool.
You sure?
And as for the Neil Windsor dedication,
No
I'm
doubt
so
there.
sorry I had to miss it. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about it. That pesky day job gets in the way. But I've heard nothing but absolutely wonderful things about it. So congratulations to everybody who played a role in it, and of course to Mr. Windsor.
Councilor Aker?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, no, I just want to mention one thing, and again, on the food drive issue, I wanted to point out for further to what's happening at the Christmas parade and other food drive initiatives, the Mount Pearl Minor Hockey Association this year will have their third annual food drive. And they organize the parents, the coaches, the managers, and all of the players to go out during the morning and go door to door in not only the Mount Pearl area, but say over in Southlands, the catchment area for Mount Pearl Minor Hockey. So on that date, that's December 13th, that's a week from Saturday, if everybody could keep that in mind, and of course if you're not home, if you just put a bag on your door,
Hang something on the door, they'll
they
take
will
it.
see it and they will canvass. It's really important because, going by at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, some people may not be home. So if you're going out shopping that day, just leave the bag on the doorknob and they can pick it up. And typically what's happened then is it's been redistributed through the efforts of the volunteer staff and faculty and the students over at Mount Pearl Senior High. And I think this year what's planned is that the food will be taken directly back to perhaps St. Peter's Parish. The two food banks in Mount Pearl are run by St. Vincent de Paul. They're part of the Food Sharing Association. And they basically are located at Mary Queen of the World as well as St. Peter's Parish. And at that point in time, I think then they're going to start to look for the best before dates on the food and
I think
basically
the food
channel
at the
it.
parade as well goes to St. Vincent.
I think it does too.
Yeah.
And now, if they have an excess amount of food, and should we be so lucky, they will be able. They have a mechanism, I think, for redistributing
They do.
throughout the region and
They
that,
do.
right? I know our own city staff are putting boxes up or locations within each of the city buildings to collect food. I want to commend the directors as well as all the staff for that initiative. And are we using some of the city vehicles maybe on the Mount Pearl Minor Hockey Food Drive Day, basically to help get the food when it comes in from the players and get it out to the individual to the 2 food banks, right? So December 13th, and you're all welcome to I guess join Mount Pearl Minor Hockey. They've had one meeting already. They'll probably have another one. And Deputy Mayor, you would probably know. I guess a lot of the students at Mount Pearl Senior High will also be involved. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be brief. Most of everything that I was going to say has already been said, but that's what happens. But I don't mind at all. Just want to say congratulations, of course, to Mr. Windsor and his family. If there ever was someone who was deserving of that honor in Mount Pearl, it certainly was him. But I also want to throw a bouquet out to all of our staff for putting off just a first-class event on Friday. Please pass that along to everybody who deserves to know, because I thought it went very well, from the tour at the municipal building itself to the event at Hotel Mount Pearl. Everything went off very nice, and certainly a great way to mark that particular occasion. I also want to comment very briefly, of course, on the Summit Center. I want to congratulate all of our staff for working so hard for making that building happen, getting it open and operational. Of course, I've heard all kinds of great comments on the swim meet over the weekend. I have a co-worker who is involved with the Mount Pearl Marlins, and for weeks, if not months, he's been asking me, when is it going to open? When are we going to get into the pool? What's the problem? Is it an electrical issue? Is it this kind of an issue? Well, I can't tell you how happy I was when he came to my desk yesterday, and he had nothing but good things to say, nothing but good comments, whether it be from the facilities to the seating area. He was just full of compliments, so just want to pass along that, of course, made me feel very proud, because it's certainly nice to not have to answer the questions anymore.
Amen to that.
Amen to that. Last thing I want to mention, of course, there's been a lot of talk about the Christmas parade. I just want to make mention of the Mount Pearl Lions Club. As you all know, of course, I'm a member of the club, but the Mount Pearl Lions have been putting together this parade since I was a small child and being brought down to Centennial Square over here by Mom and Dad to go watch the parade. So year after year after year, they meet starting early in the fall to put this thing together, go looking for floats, arranging for groups to be in the parade. They actually get together, the Lions, and pack all of the individual bags of candy that get distributed to the children, go looking for donations to be able to fill those bags of candy. So, there's an awful lot of hours and an awful lot of volunteer time goes into putting this parade off. So I just want to congratulate the Mount Pearl Lions Club and certainly thank my fellow Lions for their continued commitment to the city.
I'm hoping we'll have good weather for Saturday and get a nice big turnout again. Forecast is looking good. Okay, well, there's not anything that I can add tonight other than to say ditto to absolutely everything that everybody else has said. It's fantastic. The new facility. We have not only the naming ceremony for Neil Windsor with the new Windsor building, but 2 of the rooms of the Summit are on our grand opening day are also going to be named after 2 prominent Mount Pearl citizens. I think it's important that we as a community remember what makes us community. And it's these builders, these leaders really within our community, both at the political, corporate, volunteer level. It's these people that make community. And I'm honored that we are a part of being the group that can honor them. I think that's wonderful. And we've got 2 more. We did one for Bob Hillier. Now Neil Windsor. We've got 2 incredible people to recognize, ladies to recognize who are no longer with us, unfortunately. To recognize, and we'll do that at our grand opening of the Summit on the 18th. And I think on that note, we will say, hey, are we back before Christmas? Do we get to? Yes, we get to. You get to bring down a budget. You know what the price of oil. We'll be very interested in your budget. How to operate the new loaders. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Stoyles moves. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.